Hi there and welcome to the Malat Cookery channel. It's far too nice to be in the kitchen today, so I've brought the camera into our greenhouse just to show you what we're actually growing in here, but also the growing method which I adopted about 4 or 5 years ago, which is proving to be hugely successful. I think there's a lot of synergy between people who enjoy cooking and also want to grow some of their own produce, and so that's what the video is all about really. So let's have a look at what we're growing and also the growing method that I use. So on this side of the greenhouse, this is a lemon tree, a pip which was planted by one of our twins about 6 years ago. I'm not sure it will ever flower because it's come from a lemon which we purchased in the supermarket, but we'll see how that goes. Down here we have cucumbers, and they have gone absolutely ballistic this year. So all the way along one side of the greenhouse is cucumbers with a tomato plant stuck in there for some reason. On the other side at the front we have chilies and peppers, bell peppers. Some of these plants are in excess of 1 metre in height. And again, I'll show you the growing system that we use. And then along the back we have tomatoes, and there are just masses and masses of tomatoes on these plants. Some of them should be ready in about 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, so there are a lot of shadows in here, but hopefully we'll be able to get a good enough image. So this is the growing system that I use. I've been using this for about 5 or 6 years now. Used to use grow bags, fell into the same trap probably a lot of people do, buying grow bags from the DIY store or the garden centre. The problem I found with grow bags was that they just didn't produce, the plants didn't produce the amount of produce that I wanted or expected. The plants were normally quite small, didn't grow very well. And the problem is that with a grow bag they sell in the DIY store or the garden centre, they're far too shallow. The ones the commercial growers use are a lot deeper, plus a commercial grower is looking after the plant all the time. The problem with obviously going out to work and only doing it as a hobby is you're not able to look after the plant that much. So I had a word with a commercial grower and they told me to use this system, which has been massively successful. So what we've actually got here is at the base we've got 20 centimetres of prepared compost in a trough which is permanently in the greenhouse. On top of that we have a builder's bucket. These are about 97p from the builder's merchants, but the bottom of the bucket is being cut off completely. The same with if I'm using any sort of troughs or anything like that, completely cut off the bottom so that there's no barrier between the bucket itself and also the bed at the bottom. So what happens there is the plant grows roots down through the bucket, so there's depth, and then spreads out onto the bed at the bottom, and that means that you get a really healthy root system, which of course produces a really healthy plant as well. And this is, I say, I've been using this system for about the last 5 or 6 years and it's been massively successful. Okay, so let's have a look at the kit that you're going to need to build this growing system, and I've based this on the fact that people might not have a permanent greenhouse but will have access to one of these cheap plastic framed green greenhouses that you can buy in Lidl's, Aldi's, B&M bargains for about £20. So what we're going to need, apologies for the shadows again, but what we're going to need today is 2 of the 20 litre bags of compost. So this one's from Aldi's at 99p, again Lidl, a lot of places sell these. So 2 of those, 1 builder's bucket at 97p, and a small handsaw to cut the bottom of the bucket off. So without the handsaw, the total cost for this build system is about £2.95. And if we were going to grow a tomato plant in here, the tomato plant will give you enough tomatoes to last you from mid-July through to probably late September, so you won't have to go and buy any from the supermarket. Okay, so first thing we need to do then is to cut the base off the builder's bucket using the handsaw. Now be careful when you're doing that. And this is what we end up with. So next thing we need to do once we've cut the bottom off the bucket is to turn the bag of compost upside down, and then using a stick or a cane just to make a series of holes for drainage. Once you've done that, turn the bag back over, and then we're ready then to actually cut the top of the bag out. So what we need to do is make sure that the compost is actually in position before we do this, because once we've cut the top of the bag it all becomes a little bit unstable. So what we're aiming to do now is when we place the bucket on the top, we're looking to actually cut larger than the bucket, so we've actually got some compost exposed around the bucket, and the reason for that is once the plant is in here we'll start to water from the top, but as the plant develops and the root system develops we'll then be watering from the top and from the base, and that encourages the roots to actually come down and spread out into the compost bag itself. So we've cut the top of the compost bag out. We've got compost which is exposed all the way around the edge. Again, as I said, this will be used later on when the plant develops to actually water from the base as well as from the top. Next thing we need to do is obviously just fill this bucket now with compost. Okay, so this is with the bucket filled now. This is now ready for the plant. As you can see, we've got the base, we've got the compost within the bucket itself. Again, there's no barrier between the compost in the bucket and the base. Just think of it like an inverted T. So when the plant goes in here now, we'll get plenty of depth for the root system, and then the root system will be allowed to spread out, and you get a far better plant producing a lot of whatever you're growing, whether it's tomatoes, cucumbers, melons. The plant will definitely produce a lot more using this system than it would using something like a basic grow bag. Right, so let's actually have a look at what this growing system is capable of producing. So these cucumber plants on this side were really overgrown. I've cut them back this morning before I started filming, but there's literally cucumbers everywhere. So if you have a look down here, see some nice cucumbers there. Unfortunately, cucumbers will grow anywhere, so we've got one which has actually gone into the heater and stuck in there. Don't know how we're going to get that out in one piece. You just have to move the actual leaves to see just cucumbers everywhere. So it's the end of June and we've had, I think, 24 cucumbers already off these plants, and they're just masses of the things. They're just literally everywhere. I would not have got anywhere near this many cucumbers using just a basic grow bag. And on this side, tomatoes, again, they're just masses and masses of tomatoes. What I've had to do here is actually cut the top of the tomato off, otherwise they would grow to 2-3 meters high. Just everywhere you look, tomatoes. As far as the peppers and the chilies are concerned, these plants are already about 1.2-1.3 meters in height. What they will produce is they'll produce very large chilies, very large bell peppers, typical of what you'd see in the supermarket, whereas before we would get some bell peppers off the plants in grow bags, but they wouldn't be anywhere near the same size as you would get in the supermarket. Still a lot of tidying up to do. These shoots here need to come out. So again, anybody who knows anything about tomatoes, and anywhere where a shoot starts to come out from, where the main stem is and the leaf stem, that needs to come out. Again, I've got a lot of tidying up to do here. Okay, so that's it. That's our growing system. Very simple to make. Is really successful, as you've seen from the video, the amount of cucumbers and tomatoes that we're able to produce. One thing I haven't pointed out is that all of these plants are now grown from seed, whereas before with a grow bag I'd have to buy the plants from the actual growers or the garden centres. We can now grow from seed and get quite a lot of produce before the end of the season. So as usual, please subscribe to the channel, and if you've enjoyed the video, hit the like button. Thanks for watching.